The juice is loose.
Greetings and salutations, guys. Eric here with my review of Beetlejuice Beetlejuice, a sequel that is 36 years in the making. This is one of those times where we're getting decades later the first follow-up to a movie. I guess Top Gun Maverick a couple years ago was another example of this. But it's rare that we go this long with nothing in between. Not that Beetlejuice hasn't had other content. Of course, there was an animated series, a Broadway musical, lots of merch. But as far as Michael Keaton back in this makeup, there it is, finally. This is a tricky one for me personally, I will say, to put aside the fact that Beetlejuice as a movie means so much to me. It is one of those formative movies as far as like making me into a film fan. I remember watching those opening credits with the Danny Elfman score playing over that tracking shot of the town, turning into the tracking shot of the model as a kid. And it was just one of those sparks. I was like, this is amazing. I love this so much. I watched the movie a million times. I developed a massive obsessive crush on Winona Ryder that continued for many years. And it's just one of those movies I've just returned to over and over again. I know I'm not alone on that, by the way. Obviously, Beetlejuice, continually popular movie, which is why doing this sequel makes sense. It feels like it's going to actually have a really big opening. It has a very modern star with Jenna Ortega teamed with the notable people returning. It seems like all the elements are here for success. But is it a good movie? I think it is a pretty good movie. Look, is it nostalgia bait? Yeah, sure, it is. But it's a pretty good example of nostalgia bait. So yeah, we pick up the story decades later with Lydia Dietz, Winona Ryder, returning home to that house in Connecticut after the death of a loved one. You can guess which loved one is dead. Lydia is back at the house. She's reunited with Delia, Catherine O'Hara. She's brought along her daughter, Astrid, played by Jenna Ortega. And guess what? Beetlejuice is going to come back into her life, whether she likes it or not, and chaos will ensue. I think this movie, the big thing here is it does recapture what we loved about the first one. And I know with Tim Burton, it's a tricky thing because Tim Burton, such a beloved filmmaker in the late 80s, in the 90s. A lot of people feel like he's kind of just lost it in the past, basically this century. I don't think it's that cut and dry because I have liked some of his movies this century, which includes Sweeney Todd and Frankenweenie, but definitely there's some misses as well. Dumbo is not one of his classics. I think Tim Burton does show a return to form here, though. I think he does recapture that feeling we want from a Beetlejuice movie. It doesn't feel like someone trying to get back something they once had here. It just feels like we're back in that world. It looks right. It feels like, yeah, there's a little bit of CG, but most of the effects are done with makeup and practically and stop motion animation is used just like it was in the original. And it all just feels Beetlejuice. It feels like you want this world to feel like. And the returning cast members are all great. I mean, they are all just really just pick up where they left off. Michael Keaton, it's such an iconic performance in the original. And even though the dude is 72 now, still brings it, still completely brings it, still has the energy, still has this completely, he's so different as Beetlejuice than anything else he's done. And it's just this wonderful thing to see come out of him when he performs this character. He is in this movie more than the first one, which he's not in that much, but not too much. I actually think that they were very smart here and realized, yeah, we need to give people more Beetlejuice than in the first film, but let's not go overboard with it. Let's still have him pop up throughout consistently, but not that he's in it wall to wall all the time. I think this is a character that does work best popping in and out like this. But Keaton is he's excellent. And every scene, I think it's just like, no, that this is perfect. This is a role he was clearly born to play, and I'm glad he got to finally do it again. Winona Ryder has Lydia Dietz, paired with Jenna Ortega. Is it, on the nose casting to put Jenna Ortega as Lydia Dietz's daughter based on the past few years of Jenna Ortega's career? Yes. Is it still extremely enjoyable to see her play Lydia Dietz's daughter? Yes. and they have a really good rapport, bouncing back and forth off each other. There's, an estranged feeling to their relationship that they have to work out in the film, and it's kind of cool to see these two Tim Burton ingenues, because of course she's worked with Tim Burton Ortega on Wednesday, together like this, these sort of goth queens that they are. I do think the MVP of this movie might be Catherine O'Hara, though. She's always been hysterical. She was hysterical in the original movie, but man, she just kills it. And at this point, they know she kills it. She's had many more decades of proving how funny she is, so she gets a lot of the best bits in the movie. And just every time, I think she just completely nails it, completely delivers. She's so awesome in this. The new people, besides Jenna Ortega, I think it's a mixed bag as far as what they're given to do. Justin Theroux, I think, fares best of the other supporting cast members. He's playing Lydia's love interest. It's a very goofy, sort of over-the-top character. Sometimes maybe a little too much so, but I think that Theroux brings a good energy to it. He does deliver some good laughs along the way. The great Willem Dafoe is in this movie, and obviously is going to give a good performance, though it is kind of a one-note character. It's a funny bit, which is that in his real life, he was an actor who played a cop, and now in his afterlife, he is an afterlife cop. But he's bringing with him all this sort of actor BS and all of that false bravado. And Dafoe is having a lot of fun here, but once you get the bit, and it's kind of repeating the joke. But I do think he fares better than Monica Bellucci, who certainly looks great with the sort of stapled up look she has a figure from Beetlejuice's past who comes into play. But you would think, based on the trailers, but also based on how she's introduced, she'd be the sort of pivotal part of the movie. She really vanishes for large chunks of it, barely has any dialogue. And this is probably the part of the movie, plot-wise, that feels the shakiest, because there's another antagonistic character I don't want to get into, but that character is so separate from Monica Bellucci's character, and it feels like they could have been threaded together to make it cohesive or cut one of them. The way it works now, it just kind of feels like we have one bad guy too many. Bellucci does have one great sequence, though, a flashback sequence kind of giving some backstory to Beetlejuice and her character, which I really enjoyed, but it does feel like this needed a rewrite to work better as far as what's going on with the bad guys in this movie. But overall, I do feel like Beetlejuice delivers a satisfying experience for a fan. I mean, certainly it did for this fan. I felt right back at home in this world. I felt like it just captured what I wanted it to about being back with these characters. It was a very sort of comforting experience, a funny experience that you want to be back with them. I can only compare it to Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, which also came out this year and was also a decades later sequel that brought back sort of all the original characters, or almost all of them, and a bunch of new people. Now, I know there's a big difference, which is Ghostbusters and other films in between. But when I look at Frozen Empire and kind of what a muddled mess it was, and how it really wasn't satisfying for any of the characters completely, and it didn't really deliver the sort of wit and charm you wanted, and I compare it to Beetlejuice stands out as just, it has the juice. Wow, I just stumbled into a terrible pun, but I'm sticking with it. It has those elements that you want it to as a new Beetlejuice movie. Does it sort of justify its existence beyond that sort of nostalgia rush and here's all your old friends back again? Not really. I don't think it goes to some great new place as a sequel. But I also think it doesn't overdo all the, hey, remember this? The trailer, the early trailers had me really worried, because they do repeat some bits of, Beetlejuice making some crazy stuff come out of his face and making someone's lips seal up. I thought, are they going to just do everything he did in the first one again? Luckily, that stuff is not too overdone. It's there, but it's not like, oh my God, guys, we saw this joke in 1988. We don't need to see it again. A little bit, okay, fine. And then also they do a big musical number. Deo was such a iconic part of the original movie. Once again, there's a big possession lip sync dance sequence in this movie, and I really liked it. It's such a different song they choose. It is such a different vibe to it. It's a very long song, and so maybe the sequence is a little longer than it needs to be. But overall, I was pretty delighted by sort of just the audacity of what they were doing and the weirdness of it all. So yeah, I definitely enjoyed this movie. Went in with a lot of trepidation, because you don't want to feel just like, that disappointment. They got everyone back together. for that. It can't ruin the original movie no matter what, but it's like, if it's going to be after all this time, hopefully they can, give us something that makes us happy. And they did. Am I going to revisit this over and over again like the original? Probably not. But I do think it makes a nice little catching up with everyone story that we now have out there, that in no way makes me feel like, oh man, better to have left everything alone. What a disappointment. It's not that. It is a good time with a character in a world that we have all enjoyed for so long, and with a director that really feels, you can feel that Tim Burton is happy making this movie, right? It just feels like this is a realm that is so Tim Burton. I mean, Beetlejuice sort of stands out as the movie even more than Pee-wee's Big Adventure, which established his career, but Beetlejuice is like, this is a Tim Burton movie. And it feels like he was happy to be back there. You can definitely tell that Michael Keaton was happy to be back there. So I was happy to be back there too. So those are my thoughts on Beetlejuice. And if you can like and subscribe, that would be great. Thanks, guys. I'll be back with more. Take care.